Hello and welcome to Race 8, the final race of Season 11 here in the All Assist Soft League, where it is between the likes of Danger David and VSM Sandman to see if the rhythm and the status quo can be upset. We'll see if the Red Bull driver can knock off the three-time consecutive world champion of VSM Sandman over the next couple of hours. We have an 18-minute qualifying session followed by a 50% race to bring you here this evening, and it is going to be extremely close. We've also got a lot of driver changes ready for Season 12 to take place. I've just got it back from London into the Derbyshire area, while Skin is away this week. He's not yet made it back. A little bit of jet lag, obviously, catching up with him at the moment. We're jumping on board with the first driver out of the gates, and that is the Haas of Sir Ibo. So just to mention, whilst we wait for a couple of the cars to make their way around the tracks, a couple of driver changes that we are to expect heading into Season 12, and this is the first time that I've experienced anything like this, having only joined towards the back end of last season. VSM Sandman and Tobalenzen. VSM Sandman, of course, of the Ferrari at the moment. Tobalenzen of the Haas today, but has been in the Ferrari previously this season. They will both be driving as teammates next season for McLaren. The current McLaren drivers of Maverick, one of which is going to Ferrari. He'll be joined by DD B890, and Veriduco, the other McLaren driver, will be making his way to Haas. Quincy is on his way to Red Bull Racing. So too is RS012. The two Mercedes drivers are doing a like-for-like swap, as Danger David and D. Perez will continue as teammates, the streak that they've continued for a long period of time. But they'll be doing it in the Mercedes cars next season. So a lot to look forward to heading into, of course, the new Season 12. We will have a couple of weeks break after this race, of course, as we are still on board with Sir Ibo in the Haas. As it stands, will be a Haas driver next season, as he's onto the pit straight, and he'll be the first one to set us a time in this French qualifying. Of course, with one of the longest straights in the Formula 1 calendar, which has only been separated by a little turn on the left and then the right. It'd be interesting to see just how long that DRS zone really would be if you're allowed to go through the full length of it. But at the moment, it is just Quan in the Williams and D. Perez in the Red Bull that are still in the garage at the moment. Only Sir Ibo, Toxic, Peter Caspi and Danger David are out on time laps, but they're being joined by other drivers as we continue, as he goes into Sector 2 at the moment. The difference at the moment at the top between Danger David and VSM Sandman is only 42 points, so that could easily change throughout the course of this qualifying session and the race that is to follow as well. Danger David, of course, with his familiar teammate of D. Perez, looking to see if Red Bull can secure the double this evening. If Danger David is to win the Drivers' Championship and Red Bull secure the Constructors as well. It's Peter Caspi that is back in the Ferrari seat alongside VSM Sandman. I think the inconsistency of different drivers has been what's kept Ferrari a little bit at bay so far this season. They are the defending Constructors champions, and they are just behind Red Bull in the standings at the moment. As you may have just seen, that Formula 1 Farah has retired from the session. We will see if he can get back before the end of qualifying. We do have, waiting for the yellow flag at the top left to disappear to tell us how long we've got left. We'll stay on board with Sir Ibo as he makes his way onto the pit straight, and he is going to be the first time to set, and that is a 1:34.5, but I believe there may have been a few areas on the track in which he's exceeded track limits, so instead of a penalty being given, he's just been told that that time will be invalidated. So Toxic CZ10, he's currently on pole position with a 1:31.6 as the time, and that's quickly been beaten by Danger David, the current championship leader, on a 1:30.5. Frankie hitting a 1:30.998, and over the last couple of races, the last couple of weeks, there's been a number of different drivers that have been competing on a more than regular basis at the front side of this grid. Of course, at the beginning of the season, we saw AMS Johnsy try and give a bit of an upset to the rhythm of Danger David and VSM Sandman. And last week it was somebody else to have a go as well. So we've got Evo, who's had a couple of races towards the top. Truckster's done that himself. D. Perez has won a race as well this season. So there have been multiple drivers out in first place throughout the course of this season. 8 tenths quicker than the time that Danger David set. We've got RS0121 in the Mercedes out on provisional pole on a 1:29.7 is the time that has been set from him. We'll jump on board now with Tarkan Gino in the Alpine. Him and Racing Wheel racing side by side at the moment for this race. It is currently RS0121 that starts on pole position, followed by Danger David, and Truckster gets a 5-place grid penalty for a collision with Evo. So the AlphaTauri will start 5 places down from where he finally qualifies, as Tarquin sets a 136.2. So a lot of time being lost from some of these drivers towards the back end of the grid at the moment. The Alpine starting what is currently 11th and 12th place, but you'd like to think a lot of drivers will be improving on those times before the end of this qualifying session. It's just an 18-minute straight sprint qualifying session, followed by a 50% race that we follow with at the moment, as we do have Ivor, Kwon and Trugster all still in the pits at the moment. We are on board with Peter Caspi, the Ferrari. He is going to set us a time, and then it's going to be followed quickly by D. Perez of the Red Bull. So the Ferrari, first of all, he goes past and sets a time that has also been invalidated, but he did get a 134 in the meantime. In D. Perez, it's a 131.2, so we've had a couple of laps so far that have been invalidated throughout, but it is RS0121 in first place. Second and fourth for the Red Bulls was Danger David and D. Perez. Frankie 1811 in third place. Quincy in the Mercedes in fifth. Toxic CZ10 in sixth place. Veriduco in his final race for McLaren in seventh. Tobalenzen in eighth place in the Haas. Skid Solo in ninth. DDB 890 of the McLaren in 10th place. Ribbo in 11th, Tarquin 12th, Racing Wheel in 13th place. We are still on board with Peter Caspi, as he is one of the very few that is out there at the moment on a timed lap. And this is actually his first timed lap that he's out there for as well, after what just happened on the last one where the times got invalidated. It means he is yet to set a time, but he needs to be as high as possible to try and assist in Sandman trying to win this World Championship. Team, I wouldn't say team orders, but a teammate support has gone a long way this season in terms of Red Bull's fight for the championship. And after race one, Danger David did say that it's all about winning this Constructors' Championship as opposed to the Drivers' Championship. I interviewed him last week after the race where he finished on the podium. He repeated the exact same thing, that he feels it is still going to be a case of the constructors, not the drivers. We'll jump on board then with his nearest competitor for the season so far. That's VSM Sandman, currently sat down in 18th place, yet to set a time. And I think out of the 5 of the 6 races that I've followed so far this season, VSM Sandman has left it till the very last lap to go around there and set himself a time, but he does go purple in Sector 1 with a 22.3 as he's starting to make his way quite comfortably round into Sector 2. Of course, the DRS can be opened at any point during qualifying. It isn't just restricted to being 1 second behind the car in front, as we'll see just how he can take these corners now. Some high-level braking needed after you've got a straight that's that long to go into a couple of corners so quickly after each other. You need high level of braking, and he's done that as he's set purple in Sector 2, so we could be looking at a new fastest lap. 129.7 is the time to beat. It has been set by RS0121 in the Mercedes. He is still in the pits at the moment, but we'll see if Sandman can try and compete with the time. It all sits down onto just what he's managing to do in Sector 3, but as you can see on the screen at the moment, he is very comfortable and very confident in taking some of these corners. A very wide track here in France, which means the limitations are very difficult to breach, shall we say, but it's been managed by a couple of drivers so far, and hopefully won't see too many penalties when it comes to race action soon, as he crosses the line with a 130.1, so 4 tenths behind RS0121. Despite absolute dominance in Sector 1 and 2, Sector 3 has let him down ever so slightly, so that's changed things at the top. RS0121 in the Mercedes out in first place, VSM Sandman in second, and Danger David, who is now out on an outlap, in third place. So we will jump back on board with Ivor 32, who it's showing has gone purple through Sector 2 in the Aston Martin. He's got a couple of corners left to take to see if he can try and get himself on the front row of the grid as well. We are over halfway through this qualifying session now, and Ivor is set down in 17th place at the moment. We do still have Peter Caspi, Kwan, Trugster and Formula 1 Farah to set times, but Formula 1 Farah has retired from the session, so out onto the pit straight. We stay on board with Ivor 32 to see if he can upset the front row, which is currently consisting of a time of 129.7, which is the time to beat. He went purple in Sector 2. He's going to set a 130.3, which pushes Danger David down into 4th place and sets him comfortably in 3rd place at the moment. Drivers are starting to come back out, though, for their second outlaps of the afternoon, shall we say, and we're going to jump on board with Peter Caspi, who is taking his last couple of corners. He had an invalidated time lap invalidated lap time, should I say, on his first trip round. He ended up going back into the pits, and we're going to see if in just a moment's time he can get himself as close to VSM Sandman, his teammate, as possible. It's massively important, and so myself and Skin, and I think it's been mentioned by a couple of drivers in the past, that the key to not just the Constructors' Championship, but a Drivers' Championship is the assistance of a teammate. So it's important for Ferrari to have two drivers consistently at the front, but so far this season we've seen that Ferrari have struggled to get two drivers consistently in their seats. VSM Sandman has been the mainstay, and he's the three-time defending world champion at the moment, but his streak could be over. We've got an entertaining 50% lap to follow this, as we are on board with Peter Caspi to see if he can break the duck at the front. It is RS0121 out on pole at the moment, followed by VSM Sandman, then Ivor 32 in the Aston Martin. Danger David in 4th place, Herman in 5th, Frankie 1811 in 6th, D Perez in 7th, Quincy in 8th, Toxic in 9th, the two McLarens of Veriduco and DDB 890 in 10th and 11th respectively, followed by two Haas of Tobalenzen and Sir Ibo. Then you've got Skid Solo in 14th, Tarkangino and Racing Wheel, the two Alpines, in 15th and 16th, and Peter Caspi, who we are currently on board with at the moment. Kwon is now on an outlap, and Trugster is in the pits. They are the other two that are yet to set a time that is still with us in this qualifying session. Formula One Farah has retired from the session. We hope to see him back very soon, and we'll find out if there's any particular reason given as to why he left this qualifying session, but we'll find out very, very soon. As round these last couple of corners goes Peter Caspi, we'll see what he can do heading into the pit straight. Again, a 1:29.7 is the time to beat to get pole position. A 1:30.1 is the time to beat if he's going to go above his teammate. A very difficult cut back on yourself onto the pit straight goes in France, and we are not too far away from the end of qualifying. 5.5 minutes left, and the time that Peter Caspi has set is a 1:34.7, which will move him up, but it'll only move him up one place into 16th as he continues his way around the track. Kwon is currently out there at the moment on a time lap, and we'll go across to him in just a few moments' time. We'll see if any of the Mercedes, I think it is going to be RS0121 that's out there at the moment. Yep, he's just headed straight back into the pits as well, just as I've gone onto him. That's my luck. We'll see if it is. I think it's going to be one of the... it is, yes, it is going to be one of the... Alfa Romeos at the moment, and it is Toxic who's tried to beat his time, but he's finished 8 seconds slower, so there's a chance he will stay out and see if there's anything better than he can do. We'll go over to in fact, no, we won't, because in fact we'll stay on board with Frankie 1811. We'll stay in one place for the moment as D Perez is out on an outlap. I was going to jump across to him to see if he could beat the time of 1:31.2 that he'd set, but he's just finished his outlap, so we'll see just what he can get out of that. I think we are at a point now where we can see Frankie 1811, but we can also see Kwon just in front. Cutting it very fine at the moment is Trugster, who's leaving himself just a one-shot qualifying session if he is to choose to go out there in the AlphaTauri. Because Formula One Farah, of course, in the Williams isn't going to be setting a time in this qualifying session, which means unless Trugster sets a time, he's going to be starting in last place. But any time at the moment being completed will move him off the back space on the track. So we are on board at the moment with Kwon, as I mentioned, taking those couple of corners through Sector 3 at the moment. Goes to the DRS detection zone and some very bendy corners heading onto the pit straight, but instead he's opted to head straight into the pits. So an interesting strategy from the Williams driver. One, of course, won't be finishing the qualifying session. The other has put a little bit of extra pressure onto himself with only 3.5 minutes left of this session. We've jumped on board with D Perez, and based upon his Sector 2 time, we might be looking at him going once again around the street, the track of France. He was 6 seconds slower than the time that he set. That is currently a 1:31.2. Danger David has set a new fastest time as well for himself, which puts him at a 1:30.030. That is very, very close, 900ths of a second, in fact, ahead of VSM Sandman. So we are looking at RS0121 out on pole position, Danger David in second, and VSM Sandman in third. Is this RS0121's way of saying goodbye to Mercedes, of course, racing in the Red Bull next season? And we are staying on board with D Perez, who will no longer have time to go into the pits, change his tyres and come back out to try and set a faster time. As we saw then, he spun off ever so slightly on his final chance to get a quicker time, and I think that might cut him back and leave him in best case scenario 7th place for the Red Bull. as his teammate will start at the moment on the front row of the grid, albeit in second place. We jump on board with Veriduco just to see if he can beat his time. He does not. He finishes 11 seconds slower. So we'll jump on board with his teammate DDB890, who's making his way through Sector 2 with plenty of track in front of him at the moment. Just under 2.5 minutes left. He's gone purple in Sector 2. So we'll see if the McLaren can put the cat amongst the pigeons, as it was once said. See if he can get himself onto the front row of the grid. Into Sector 3, taking some of these corners very smoothly and very nice as well. Of course, next season, he'll be racing for a very different team as McLaren have got their... no, he won't. He'll be racing in the McLaren. He'll be racing with a very different teammate, should I say, as Veriduco leaves for Haas. He'll be racing alongside... no, he will be racing in a very different team, sorry, with Maverick from the McLaren in the Ferraris. So I was reading that a little bit wrong there. But yes, he'll be racing for a very, very different team as his time set does not beat his previous one, and he will start in 11th place. So we're going to jump on board now with Quan23, who is out on an outlap at the moment, but I think he's going to be the last one to be able to set a time. We've got a couple of drivers out on outlaps at the moment, but Trugster will be starting from 20th place on the grid with Formula 1 Farah. If Quan can beat or set any time, will finish ahead or start ahead of his teammate. Formula 1 Farah will start in 19th place. So the back row of the grid is almost set in stone for us, as drivers will now start to set quicker times as they go round. Quincy moves up one position into 7th place at the expense of D. Perez, who falls down into 8th, and Tarquingino moves up into 12th place at the moment as well. In the pits, we have got Danger David, Sir Ibo and Trugster at the moment. We are still on board with Quan23. I think we are now into the final minute of this 18-minute qualifying session. RS0121 Toxic all out on outlaps. Quan passes the line just in time. We'll see if that's going to be the case for the other two. I don't think it is going to be the case for RS0121. I think he's left a little bit late. We have got 13 seconds, so we'll jump on board with him just to see if he can beat the checkered flag on this qualifying session. It's going to be very close. I don't think he's going to actually manage it. And he will be, he's gone straight into the pits. He's not going to manage it. His qualifying session's over and he's headed straight in. So it's over for him, who starts at the moment on provisional pole. Danger David in second place as it stands on a 130.0. So let's jump on board with the defending champion. It is VSM Sandman going through Sector 2. Heading through Sector 3 as we speak at the moment, as there is a yellow flag, but it's nothing to worry about. It is one of the Mercedes moving to the side to allow drivers to make their way through. We've got a couple of cars to see if they can beat the times. DDB890's got the checkered flag, so has Cerebo. Trugster, of course, as we mentioned, in 20th place, also has the flag, and Formula 1 Farah had retired from the session, as it says that Trugster's just joined us in time for qualifying to have finished, and he'll be surprised to know that he'll be starting at the very back. So a 129.7 is the time to beat for VSM Sandman to take pole position away from RS0121. He's not done it. He's set a 129.9, which puts him third, but at that same point, Herman in the Alfa Romeo has set a 129.8, which puts him up into second place at the moment. So RS0121 gets pole position as it stands, followed by Herman. VSM Sandman, Danger David falls down into fourth place. Evo's headed into the pits. Frankie 1811 now has the checkered flag as well. So let's jump on board with Toxic CZ10. See where he can get. Quan hit a 134.2, which does put him ahead of his teammate. Also puts him ahead of Racing Wheel 027. And I think that is checkered flag for everybody. Quincy has retired from the session as well, so we'll wait for a couple of these cars to head back into the garages. But it is RS0121 that is out on pole position in the Mercedes. It's VSM Sandman ahead of Danger David to kick things off in the race. But as ever, here on the All Assist Soft League, we've got a very entertaining 50% race on the way for you in just a moment's time. Here we go then, we are back for the 50% race here in France in the final race of season 11. And it is RS0121 that is out in front at the moment. Herman stays in second place, but VSM Sandman goes up onto the inside of both drivers and takes out into first place. He's challenging with RS0121 into turn 2 as well. I think RS0121 went a little bit wide there, and it's allowed through VSM Sandman to hold the lead as the Ferrari is leading the French Grand Prix. It is RS0121 in second place at the moment. Herman remains in third place as he goes a little bit wide, and I think that may have cost him a couple of places. No, he's managed to regain position, but he's been given a 5-second time penalty for corner cut, and he didn't gain a position on that, so the question is why he's been given a time penalty, but I'm not quite so sure on that. But Danger David is just behind him at the moment as he takes the first penalty, and Danger David goes just upside of him as well. There's a couple of cars actually battling into this turn as well. Danger David is one of them with Ivor 32 and Herman, who's dropped down into 5th place at the moment. Danger David holds on to 3rd place, and now the pursuit of RS0121 will begin for the current championship leader in the Red Bull. So plenty of action going into turn 1 as VSM Sandman has taken himself out into the lead, and now we'll start to get the details up in front of us to see just what tyres and strategies drivers are going for. We are on a sprint race, of course, before the 50% race that follows this, and just to mention as well, that Formula 1 Farah did leave the qualifying session because he was on a qualifying ban from an incident that happened last week. So something that may have been missed there. I missed it myself as well. I completely forgot about that. Should have been doing my research and taking my notes. But Formula 1 Farah is currently banned from qualifying. But he's put an excellent shift in so far in this sprint race, and it's pushed him up into 13th place. So the sprint race, of course, will determine who's going to be starting where in the actual race, which will be following this. And that will be, of course, the 50% race. But we only go through 9 laps of this on this occasion, and all drivers bar 3 are out on soft tyres. Of course, RS0121, Ivor 32 and Racing Wheel 027 all out on medium tyres. As a little bit wide goes RS0121, open the door ever so slightly for Danger David, but we'll have a look on board with Herman at the moment, who is closing that gap with the Aston Martin of Ivor 32 heading into this straight. I think it's another situation of 3 laps before you can start to use DRS in these circumstances, and of course with the dry weather as well. He's tried to take that corner and just stay behind Evo ever so slightly, but over his shoulder he's also got the Red Bull of D. Perez, and it's very close between them. Less than a second separates a lot of these drivers at the moment, apart from VSM Sandman, who is out by 2 seconds as it stands. And I think RS0121 holding up Danger David may actually do him a favour into this final race of the season. As we come round into the final DRS detection zone, and I think as soon as VSM Sandman crosses the line, we will see that DRS has been enabled. It is currently VSM Sandman the leader, followed by RS0121, Danger David in 3rd place, Ivor 32 in 4th, Herman in 5th place, D. Perez in 6th. As we watch now going down the pit straight, VSM Sandman sets a quicker time of 1:32.3 as the yellow flag is out and Skid Solo is out of this race, and it is also Formula 1 Farah that's been given a penalty for that, and it looks like he's off track as well. I'm going to see if we can get on board there with Formula 1 Farah. He's had to go into the pits, but Skid Solo is out. We missed that ever so slightly, but Formula 1 Farah has been given a 5-second time penalty, and it has resulted in 3 cars having to go into the pits. In a sprint race, for those that aren't aware, there is no requirement to have to pit at any point. It is an option if you wish to go for it. That's absolutely fine. Of course, in these circumstances where damage has been gained, drivers will opt to go into the pits. But Formula 1 Farah has served his 5-second time penalty and has had a change of wing for his trouble as well, as the safety car is out for us at the moment, and this will bunch the cars back together in just a few moments' time as well. As it is VSM Sandman out in lead. He had an over 2-second lead of RS0121, and the safety car on about turn 3 has parked up waiting for some of these drivers to make their way around. RS0121 in 2nd place, Danger David in 3rd. Don't suspect anybody will be taking advantage of the safety car in a 9-lap sprint race to change their tyres. I think it'll just be a case of see it all through until the very end. And the safety car in these in the new Formula 1 game seems to stay out for around about 3 laps. As we are on board at the moment with VSM Sandman, of course that gap with RS0121 has naturally closed significantly. But looking through his wing mirror as well, he will see the Red Bull of Danger David, the biggest threat to his current defending his championship reign. 3 seasons consecutively won by, I believe, as it stands, the only person in the All Assist Soft League that is still using the controller. Everybody else not actually using the controller at the moment, but VSM Sandman has been disqualified for ignoring the yellow flag. He's gone past the safety car, and I believe he's been disqualified from the session. Or it's come up saying he's been disqualified from the session. It has. It's moved him to the very back. So this very much upsets things. He's left the side of the safety car as well, and it is currently RS0121 that is back out in front. Of course, this is only the sprint race, which means VSM Sandman will rejoin us for the 50% race, but he will rejoin us from 20th place on the grid. So what we actually saw is a real change to the circumstances. He was looking behind to see Danger David, thinking this could be quite a close battle, but the disqualification could change things considerably for him as well. It is RS0121 followed by Danger David, followed by the Aston Martin of Evo 32 at the moment. Bringing up the back of the track at the minute is Formula 1 Farah, who has just gone into the pits in the Williams. We've got Veriduco in the McLaren and Tarkan Gino in the Alpine. Just going to have a look at the pit stops that have been done. Of course, there's a 5-second time penalty for Herman for those that may have forgot that, but Formula 1 Farah has gone in for his second stop of the sprint race, and both Alpines, Racing Wheel 027 and Tarkan Gino, have pitted as a result of the incident that saw Skid Solo leave the sprint race. So wait for this safety car to go in. No confirmation that it is happening on this lap, which means we may get another lap under the safety car. Around about 3 laps left of the sprint race before we come up with the actual race. So as expected, the safety car will stay out, so it's best that we go through a couple of the standings at the moment. Apologies for the couple of silences there. Doing the commentary flying solo today means there's going to be a couple of instances where I could really do with stopping to get a bit of a drink, so there may be a little bit of silence here and there, but as it stands at the moment, Red Bull sits at the front of the Constructors' Championship on 762 points, 104 points clear of the Ferrari, 162.5 points clear of Haas, 166.5 points clear of Mercedes, and the most points any team has had at any one point is 187.5 points in the third race of the season, which is when Red Bull, of course, got the 1-2. So if there's really going to be a chance of the Mercedes or even the Haas winning the championship today, they're going to need a 1-2, with Red Bull finishing quite far down. As it stands at the moment, that's looking unlikely to happen. Looking at the Drivers' Championship as it is at the moment, Danger David out in first place at the moment on 531. A mere 43 points separates him and VSM Sandman. So just how important is that disqualification? Just how pivotal is that disqualification that VSM Sandman's just received going to be throughout the course of this race? We saw in the last race where he made a couple of questionable pitting decisions, saw him fall quite far down the track before having to fight his way back up. We know he's capable of it. We've seen multiple drivers this season staring at the back of the Ferrari car as he's made his way back up the grid. We've seen the exact same with the Red Bull of Danger David as well, as we've just received confirmation that the safety car is heading back in, which means we'll have 3 laps left of the sprint race before we go on to the 50% race of race 8 of season 11 here in the All Assists Off League in France. So it is back to the lead for RS0121. I believe for the first time this season will be the pace setter as we get things back underway. He's taking the final left turn before the right turn onto the pit straight as the safety car has made it into the garage. We are back underway with racing. We are on board, or we were on board, with the race leader of RS0121. He's followed by Danger David, and I think that'll be comfortable going up into the first corner. A little bit of momentum needed from the Red Bull if he's to compete into the first corner, and he's not managed to do it, although the car has just coasted its way through. We've got Evo 32 just behind him in the Aston Martin. Just going to see if there's any changes been made with the drivers being this close. We jump on board with Quincy, who just took a sneak up the inside of the AlphaTauri of Frankie 1811. Nearly managed to get the overtake as well. It looks like he's going to try once again, very close towards the back of his car there, though, and heading on to a very long straight. A good opportunity for him to get up into 6th place at the expense of the AlphaTauri if he can capitalise on it. And at the same time, we've got Danger David doing something very similar at the front. So we're going to jump onto the left-hand side now with Quincy at the moment to see if we can get the inside line, but it stays with position with Frankie 1811. It looked like the exact same thing happened with Danger David as well, as he was closing down on the current race leader for this sprint race. Heading round through Sector 3 at the moment. Danger David is once again trying to sneak up onto the inside of RS0121, and he's managed to take that position. He's defended it well and made it his own. So at the moment, Danger David is going to be on pole position for the race, followed by RS0121, Evo 32 just behind him as well. So it's just how long could RS0121 hold off the front runners? It was first Sandman, it is now Danger David as we stay on board with Herman to get a little bit of a view on his attempts to get past Evo 32 as well. Heading on to the pit straight to finish the first lap since the safety car headed into the garage. We're on board with Herman 26 at the moment, as we can see just a little bit in front of Herman. Evo and RS0121 are having a little bit of a battle as well. We'll jump on board quickly with Truckster, who just managed to gain a position on Quincy, and it looks like Toxic's done the exact same thing as we saw at the bottom of our screens. Then Quincy took the corner a little bit late in 9th place, and from battling with Frankie 1811, it's completely changed for him, and he's fallen into 8th place instead of battling for 6th. So we'll jump on board with Herman as he's trying to get his way past Evo, but at the expense, it looks like he may have lost a position to D. Perez. He's also got a 5-second time penalty that he's going to be serving. He's going to go up the inside of D. Perez into this corner. He's actually changed his mind on trying the overtake at that point, and he remains just behind the Red Bull. It's allowing Evo and RS0121 to try and gain a little bit more momentum to battle the current leader of this race, which is D. Perez's teammate Danger David, with the yellow flag out in Sector 2 at the moment. Doesn't look anything serious, but Kwan has fallen to the back of the grid. He'll be able to continue throughout the course of this sprint race, though, as we have remained on board with Herman. We're going to move down to 12th place, where there's a battle on for 11th with Tobelins, and just having a look on the inside of Peter Caspi there, as it's going to give Peter Caspi the outside line heading into the next turn, and it allows the Ferrari to stay in 11th place with potentially some very vital points on the line at the moment, as the Haas sit 12th and 13th place, trying to compete for a top 3 position as a team, as DRS has been re-enabled and now allow chaos to ensue here in France, with a lot of drivers able to activate this coming round onto a relatively long pit straight. RS0121 has gained about 0.7 of a second on Danger David, and it's allowed him to close that gap, as now D. Perez has received a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings of exceeding track limits. So just how pivotal is that going to be, as he's also fallen down into 8th place as it stands at the moment, with that 3-second time penalty. 9th place now. It looks like he's just in free fall, so something may have happened with the Red Bull. I think it might be a little bit too late for me to join. It is. We've joined just in time for him to get back on the track and things back under control. But he's in 10th place at the moment after a monumental fall from him, as Truckster will jump on board with now of the AlphaTauri, who's moved up into 5th place at the moment, with Frankie 1811 down in 6th, making his way through the twists and turns that Sector 3 has to offer us in France. As now it's Cerebro's turn to go wide and off track, and he's not the only one. It looks like Veriduco's done something very similar, as he's lost position to Tobelenzen, has allowed his way through, as we'll jump on board now with RS0121, who hasn't given up his chances of first place just yet, As he goes up onto the inside of Danger David, he's going to have the outside line going in, the inside line, in fact, going into the pit straight. Can he hold it on the Red Bull of Danger David? He has done, and he's currently the race leader. And it's allowed Ivor to have a look up the inside as well, see if he can capitalise and take second place. If not first, I think DRS was going to allow him to take first place. Ivor on the outside takes first place away from Danger David, who in the space of 2 corners has fallen from first to third in the final lap of the sprint race. It's Ivor 32 in the Aston Martin that is now out as your race leader. RS0121 in the Mercedes in second place. Danger David down in third, and DRS means this is not over, with still half of the track left to do and at least another DRS zone, which we are about to see now. The detection zone is upon us, and everybody, the first 4 are all within a second of each other. So let's see if we can get similar sort of action to what we've just had. As out on the outside goes RS0121, and he's managed to take first place back off Ivor. He's back as the race leader at the moment. Danger David's assistance of DRS wasn't quite enough to allow him to get the position off Ivor as well, so he's back to where he started in third place. And what a sprint race it has been for the Aston Martin, as Ivor is up into second place at the moment. We've seen the departure of Skid Solo from the session, and Ivor went a little bit wide there, but he's managed to stay on track without losing position to Danger David, a couple of corners away from the end of a 9-lap sprint race. And we'll see just how this is going to finish, and it looks like it is, barring an error now, going to be the Mercedes of RS0121 that is out on pole position for the 50% race, that 50% lapped race, should I say, that is coming up in just a moment's time. As Danger David just looked up the inside there of Ivor, trying to get himself into second place before the end of this session, but it is going to be RS0121 that takes pole position, followed by Ivor 32, Danger David in third place, Truckster will take fourth, Brenke 1811 will take 5th place, Herman will sit in 6th, his Alfa Romeo teammate will start in 7th place with Toxic CZ10. Quincy and the Mercedes will cross the line into 8th place in his final race for Mercedes as well. DDB890 will start in 9th place in the McLaren. D. Perez, after his fall, will start in 10th place. Racing Wheel in 11th. Tobalenzen in 12th. Peter Caspi in 13th. Tarcangino 14th. Formula 1 Farah in 15th. Kwan in 16th. And there we go. So, what an entertaining last lap, should I say, to the qualifying session that was. Or the sprint race, if you will. And Truckster gets driver of the day in the sprint race as well. He'll be more than happy with that. But after the ban that was given to Formula 1 Farah, I think that could be considered quite an interesting sprint race. And we're back in just a moment's time for the 50% race of the final race of the season. Here we go, then it is time for the 50% lap, 50% race. For the final race of Season 11, RS012 out in first place at the moment as we've got a yellow flag almost from the start straight away. He's going up into the first corner. He goes out onto the outside to hold position ahead of Evor 32, who is up in second place in the Aston Martin. He holds that quite comfortably heading round as there's going to be a couple of slips, slides and skids as we make our way around the first lap here in France, as the rain has from absolutely nowhere started pouring down after the sprint race. So nothing but sunshine for us. It does mean that the strategy is going to be slightly different for a lot of these drivers. They don't have to worry so much about swapping their tyres. It's just keeping them on for as long as they can until the rain starts to disappear. But as it stands, there's no sign of that. And Skid Solo's received a penalty, Kwan's received a penalty, and we've got a virtual safety car 2 corners into the first lap. Kwan has now received a further 5-second time penalty, and in the space of those couple of corners, VSM Sandman has moved himself up into 15th place. So we'll just jump and set everything up ready for the race under the VSC, and Kwan has received a 14-second time penalty accumulatively in the Williams. 5 seconds goes to the Aston Martin of Skid Solo. And we'll go with the tyre options. Everyone's out on intermediates, unsurprisingly. We'll wait for this virtual safety car to head in, and we'll see if we can get some more entertaining racing in the rain. But it does change the approach from a lot of these drivers. What once could have been a bit more of an aggressive approach, a couple of aggressive overtakes being made. Nobody wants to make those risks, as we see Frankie 1811 going a little bit wide there in the rain. Because as you've just seen there, the car can aquaplane, it can go sliding absolutely anywhere, and it can cause a lot of damage, hassle and ruin drivers' races as well. But as it stands, Danger David will be crowned the drivers' champion for this year. He's in 5th place at the moment, VSM Sandman down in 15th, and we're about to finish the first lap with RS0121 still out in first place, as the VSC has now ended, and Evor will try and put a little bit of an attack onto him heading into this first corner, as the first lap finishes with a 2 minutes 7 seconds time to beat with RS012, and I expect that to be beaten in this lap, barring any further yellow or even red flags that have of course been brought into this new Formula 1 game. You can see there Herman having a look at the approach of going past Frankie 1811, as well as we're on board there with Frankie, and he's gone a little bit sliding in his car as he looked at the possibility of going up the outside of Evor to try and gain a further position. The AlphaTauri, of course, struggling so far in this weather, and he's now under a little bit of pressure from the Alfa Romeo of Herman down in 4th place. Let's move further down to have a look at Formula 1 Farah, who's making a bit of an attack on Peter Caspi, the other Ferrari, of course, as he looks like he's about to go up onto the inside, heading into the next corner. Just decides not to go through with it, and will wait another couple of corners before he tries to get past Peter Caspi, as VSM Sandman, the other Ferrari, is sat right behind him. Tarcangino just manages to gain a position on Tobolenzen, as Frankie 1811 is now fallen down into 5th place, and Trucks has moved up into 6th. So it's typical that as soon as I move away from him, we do actually start to see a couple of overtakes being made, just as we've seen there with VSM Sandman getting past the Williams of Formula 1 Farah. At the moment, it is RS0121 that is out in the lead as he looks to finish this second lap, and it is going to be around about half a minute quicker than what the first lap was finished in, so we should start to see things speed up ever so slightly. One of the shorter races of the season, with it only being 27 laps, but in distance it's theoretically one of the bigger tracks in the Formula 1 calendar, as DDB890 goes just past D Perez to move up into 9th place. Yeah, so 1:44.1 is the time set by RS0121, as Formula 1 Farah, potentially due to damage, has gone down into 13th place and will continue to fall as he's gone into the pits, as it was the rain that caused havoc for us last week in the race and saw VSM Sandman make multiple pit stops that were maybe unnecessary, that eventually saw him finish further down than he'd have liked. And he even said this afterwards as well in the Discord chat that's available. He said that those strategies let him down ever so slightly. But hopefully we'll be getting to hear from a couple of drivers at the end of the race, as we've got a purple sector now, purple sector 1 for VSM Sandman, who is down in 12th place, and in the space of 3 laps has made up 8 positions. So the rain, you dare say, has done him a lot of favours, with drivers not having to worry about when they're going to be pitting from the softs to the mediums or anything like that. Everybody's on one tyre, and it's just how you can handle the car in the wet weather, and I dare say a lot of these drivers are doing it very well. Everyone's doing it better than I'd be able to. Ivor 32 now will jump on board with us. He's now less than half a second behind Herman, who's made his way up into second place. Herman, of course, in the Alfa Romeo, and if I'm not mistaken, actually last week won the race. So I'm just going to double check that, but I'm pretty sure that Herman won the race last week. He did, in the Williams, so I think he's going to be nailed down to one team next season, which should be very interesting to see in a constructors' battle. But he's now in the Alfa Romeo and he's up in second place, aiming to go 2 for 2, so he could always upset the rhythm that's going on at the front of the grid at the moment, as Herman sets a 1:43.6, which is the fastest time as it stands at the moment, and he is just behind RS0121. It looked like he's going to go up the inside of him. He's going to hold that position as well on a little bit of a straight, keeps the inside line through this corner, but that forces him onto the outside line for the next corner, and it might just work in RS0121's favour. Two cars side by side onto the inside line, onto the long straight that's not going to be DRS assisted here because of the rain that we've got with us at the moment, so this is not going to count for the DRS validation, but he's managed to gain that position, and RS0121 went off the track ever so slightly, which has allowed Ivor very, very close to him, and Ivor now up side by side with him, has the inside line going into the next corner. Is this going to work out in his favour? It might just do so. He's actually got the outside line now, and I think he's going to have the outside again in a moment before they go on to the long straight. He is, but he's still side by side with RS0121 at the moment. And I think he's just going to have to heel going into this next corner. No, he's not. He's gone up onto the inside to try and a bit more of an aggressive approach, but he's not going to be able to do so. RS0121 defending magnificently, and the Mercedes keeps second place. But the little battle that's going on there at the moment has allowed the approach of Danger David cantering in the background, 0.2 seconds away from Ivor 32 at the moment, as it looks like on my screen the rain is starting to steady down and may even disappear. And whilst that's all been going on, we jump on board with the defending champion of VSM Sandman, who's now up into 9th place and is just behind Quincy. Of course, this still means that as it stands, Danger David will be the world champion, and it does mean that VSM Sandman will need to get ahead of him for that to change before the end of this race. But Trugster sets a time of 1:43.4 as the fastest lap from 6th place. And it looks like a couple of cars are going to be trying to contend with that on a 1:43, and we'll start to see when the rain disappears, just when the cars start to go in for these pit stops. We are 5 laps into a 27-lap race, the final race, of course, of the season. And Toxic now, the latest driver to get a 3-second time penalty, again for multiple warnings of exceeding track limits. Onto a relatively long straight in Sector 2 at the moment. VSM Sandman still just behind the Mercedes of Quincy. Of course, both going to be driving with different teams next season, so it'll be take a bit of an adjustment period for me to get used to, not seeing VSM Sandman in the red car, nor will it with Quincy in the Mercedes car. So plenty of changes to come in this off-season, with a couple of weeks break after today's race as well. And with the way my voice is going based upon how this race has brought us so far, it's going to be very much needed. Herman, 26, the current leader, now 1.6 seconds, over a second and a half ahead of RS0121. And after a dominant performance last week, we're starting to see those shades again as VSM Sandman goes up onto the inside of Quincy, gains that position, holds it firmly, and moves on to try the pursuit of Toxic in the Alfa Romeo as well. His teammate is currently leading, but 1st and 7th isn't a bad position for the Alfa Romeos to be in at the moment. You've got the two Haas together in 14th and 15th. And the Ferraris are separating themselves further and further, as D. Perez in 11th place will also help Red Bull with the Constructors' Championship at the moment. Fastest lap now sits with Herman, the current race leader, as we move on board with Danger David, who is the closest to an overtake as far as I can see at the moment. Cerebo then overtakes Tobalenzen, of course he does, but Tobalenzen goes into the pits, which will explain why that's happened. We'll stay on board with Danger David with an excellent aerial view at the moment of him just behind Ivor 32. You can see just behind him, Ivor 32, RS0121 just in front of him, as he's starting to make his way round onto the long straight of Sector 2. Maybe a bit of an advantage. He activates the overtake option. DRS has been enabled, which tells you the rain has very much calmed down, and he'll go through with DRS. It's been enabled just at the right time for him to get past RS0121 and up into second place, and now he'll start that chase of Herman 26. But how long do you leave it when DRS has been enabled? How long do you leave it before you head into the pits to change your tyres? But a purple sector 2 for Danger David, who will try and take the fastest lap away from Herman 26. His closest competition at the moment for winner of this race, although RS0121 has been phenomenal in not only gaining pole position, battling with the sprint race, and of course finishing that in first place, and he'll hope to do so in this race as well. As Danger David heads into the pits, a lot of cars actually heading into the pits now. Truckster has done. Frankie 1811 has remained out there at the moment, so smart strategy from the Alpha Tauri as up on the inside goes Toxic, who'll take the lead for the Alfa Romeo. And it'll just be the option of Frankie that has to sit behind him as they have to wait the extra lap as their teammates currently go into the pits. And the tyre choice for these drivers at the moment is onto the mediums and hards, so they're hoping to just stick with the one-stop strategy. D. Perez, however, has opted to go in for the wet tyres, which is a very interesting approach. Maybe he's been told different information to what everybody else has, but he's coming out on the wet tyres in 10th place. We've got a couple of cars still out there on intermediates at the moment, but it is, once everybody's pitted, Herman 26 that will regain the lead. On the hard tyres, Danger David on the medium, the quicker medium tyres, although they don't have the same lifespan as the hard tyres that Herman will have at the moment. RS0121 in 6th place on the Mercedes. Up goes the inside, there goes Frankie. He's going to try and gain that position back. He's ended up leaving the track. He's going to rejoin it just ahead of Toxic. He's let Toxic go past him though. No penalty for him, and he'll sit and yield back into second place with Toxic out in first at the moment. Both drivers you'd expect are going to pit at the end of this lap, especially with Frankie enduring some issues with the tyre traction there, and of course the grip that he's got on those intermediate tyres as the track looks almost dry at the moment. So it must have been the warm rain that we're used to seeing in the UK at the moment that he's going to see a bit of now. Toxic CZ10 is the current leader, and he's got a penalty, so we'll see where that leaves him when he comes back out. But at the moment, it is Herman that is leading, followed by Danger David. However, Danger David is closing that gap, and that may be the heat now into the medium tyres that we kind of expected would happen, as DDB890 goes into the pits as well, which means Herman can regain the lead from the three cars that are in the pits as it stands. Smart strategy to not stack the cars as a 141.8 is set, and then as cars continue to go through, that fastest lap just continues to get beaten and beaten, and it currently sits with second place with RS0121, who has got ahead of Danger David again. But Danger David will be coming up in just a moment's time to a DRS zone, and that could help him massively to get back ahead of RS0121 and potentially close the gap onto Herman, as Truckster now gets a time penalty for exceeding track limits as well. So Truckster currently down in 4th place, or up in 4th place should we say, as Frankie also gets a time penalty. Tobalenzen sets a time of 138.8 to set the fastest lap of the race. Going through Sector 2 at the moment is Danger David following RS0121 round, and he's very, very close to capitalising on one of these DRS zones that have worked in his favour throughout the season and in the past. He's keeping very close to the Mercedes, and both cars are keeping it within 3 seconds of the Alfa Romeo of Herman 26, who is out at the moment in front on those hard tyres and the medium tyres. Historically, the quicker tyres may require 2 stops, but both drivers stopping on lap 7. 20 laps in the medium tyres, it's close, it's questionable, but it might just be doable as well, and it's something that a lot of drivers have decided that they feel that they can do, as Suribo has boxed and come out onto the soft tyres. D. Perez at the moment is down in 18th place, having pitted for a second time to come out on the medium tyres, having originally come out on the wets, as RS0121 sets the fastest lap in second place, and there's 7/10 gained in those last couple of corners since we've jumped on board with Danger David. from second and third place out for where Herman is, out in first place at the moment. So another couple of laps time, we could be looking at some good three-car racing out in front. Of those hard tyres may have the longevity, but they don't have the speed at the moment to keep the Alfa Romeo out in first place. Just have a look where else on track. We'll stay on board with Danger David though. DRS onto the inside, comfortably gets past the Mercedes of RS0121, and that gap between them and Herman has now dropped to 1.6 seconds. So the battle could commence within the next lap or two, and whilst that's happening, we will jump to see where else we've got a couple of overtake opportunities, and it'll be with Tobelenzen, who's about to go round into Sector 2. He's just passed the DRS detection zone. He's got it, which means when he crosses the line in just a moment's time, he'll be able to open his rear wing, gain him the extra 10 miles per hour that's given down this long straight. See if he can get the advantage over Tarcangino. He goes up onto the inside, but I don't think it's just going to be long enough for him to get there. Not on this occasion. It is going to be Tarcangino that sits comfortably in 12th place at the moment, but out of his rear view, he will see the Haas of Tobelenzen knocking on the door, eagerly anticipating that mistake to see if he can make his way through into 12th position, as Danger David sets a 1:33.4, which is the fastest lap, and gets him up to 1.5 seconds behind Herman, as we see there. A little bit of a spin there from Tobelenzen. It's allowed Suribo through as well. Tarcangino almost had the place himself, and I think it was assisted there by the spin that Tobelenzen had on those medium tyres. He's had a couple of spins and a couple of issues these last couple of races, but at the moment he's in 14th place. It's allowed his teammate Suribo on the softer tyres to make his way through as well, and Tarcangino now moves up into 12th place, and that is still the closest we've got of any cars that are on the track at the moment. So we will stay on board with Tobelenzen, who's got DRS, and so has his teammate Suribo, which puts a little bit more pressure on the Alpine of Tarcangino, but not at this corner. It's not, as Tarcangino holds on to 12th place, at least for the next couple of corners, where the two Haas drivers may try to utilise each other's DRS to get themselves together past the Alpine. And it's just a lot of these cars are congested. You've got little areas where there's spaces and a couple of cars out on their own, but the majority are compact, and it's going to make for entertaining racing for the next 17 laps at least, as now DRS is opened again through Sector 2. And it is. We're going to jump on board quickly with Suribo, because there's a chance that this could be an overtake for him. He's gone up on the inside. Can he get the inside line going into the corner? He's healed, but I think he's gone a little bit too slow. That it's allowed Tobelenzen to compete with him as well. He went over the curb a little bit. I don't know if that's done any damage to the under part of his car, but he's initiated the overtake into the second part of this straight to see if he can maximise the opportunity to get past Tarcangino. But I think the Alpine is going to have enough defending suitability to keep himself in 12th place at the moment. But Tobelenzen is very close as Suribo goes up on to the inside again, tries to keep the inside line. This time takes 12th place away from Tarcangino, who's still there battling as well, but it looks like Tobelenzen is going to try and follow his teammate through and take 13th place from the Alpine. But as it stands, it is a Haas sandwich for the Alpine driver of Tarcangino, who sits in 13th place. Suribo moves up into 12th on those soft tyres, and with those quicker tyres might actually be able to compete in battling Peter Caspi, who's in 11th place in the Ferrari at the moment. The overtake has been set for Suribo again to try and help him defend the DRS that his opposition has got in 13th. And we'll jump now on board with RS0121 up in 3rd place at the moment. He is still competing out with Herman, as Danger David takes the lead away from Herman, who won, of course, last week. And Herman's still trying to battle back around into these corners. Couple of corners now for him to try and have to defend, as RS0121 is also trying to get in a part of this race for first place. Danger David holds it out in first at the moment. Herman in the hard tyres, maybe a bit of a questionable strategy for him to go for, unless there is a case of the medium tyres aren't going to last the full length of this race, and either Danger David or RS0121 are going to need to pit again. But there's going to be DRS now for both the Alfa Romeo and the Mercedes on this pit straight. The Alfa Romeo opens up the rear wing, and the Mercedes has done the same thing to see if they can get the opportunity to go past Danger David. Onto the inside goes Herman into the first corner. Herman goes a little bit wide but manages to stay on track. Danger David crossed up into the middle of the track there, and it gave the opportunity for RS0121, who didn't want it, but Herman took first place away from the Red Bull, and he is now the race leader once again on those hard tyres. RS0121 again just behind Danger David, heading into the second DRS zone. We're getting towards the detection zone, and with 4 seconds separating all these three drivers from 4th place, we dare say that this, barring any issues with the safety cars or accidents, is how the race is going to be. And no one's going to complain with 3-car racing at the front of the grid. Is now the rear wing is open for Danger David and for RS0121. Danger David again tries knocking at the door for Herman, but he closes that very quickly and keeps first place to himself as we go around another couple of corners before we get another DRS zone. It is just a case of how much will those medium tyres be able to withstand as an advantage over those hard tyres before the wear and tear becomes too sufficient that they are going to have to pit again. That is the question here, and with these having to put that pressure onto the current race leader as he tries again going up onto the inside. This time holds the outside line. He's going to have the inside going into this corner though, and he's still got the lead over Herman, and Herman just takes it back in time as we go round heading into another couple of corners onto the pit straight. We've got DRS again for the two drivers of Danger David and RS0121, who at the moment as a spectator, the Mercedes must be absolutely loving this, but also wanting to get in on the action as we've got Herman out in the lead. Danger David opens up DRS, goes up onto the outside for the next corner to see if he can gain that position, does so before we even get to the corner and comfortably takes first place back as Herman now falls into second, but he may himself have DRS going back into sector 2 unless Danger David can really capitalise on these medium tyres. But the pressure, the extra speed that these medium tyres are giving would really take its toll if they are competing with Herman at the moment, and it may reduce the lifespan of them medium tyres, forcing them to pit maybe sooner and risking that they wouldn't be able to finish the race on these tyres. But Herman opens up DRS at the moment, seeing if he can get back ahead of Danger David and regain first place in this race, and he's not going to do so on those corners as Danger David defends very well against the DRS of the Alfa Romeo of Herman. And as it stands, Danger David is still the race leader. We are around about the halfway point of the race at the moment, and we have had some entertainment these last couple of races. Since the rain disappeared, it's been very close between these three drivers at the front, but this battling has also allowed Ivor to close that gap by half a second at the moment. It's D. Perez now the latest to receive a penalty for exceeding track limits. It is still with Danger David out in first place at the moment. Half a second separates him from Herman as we wait to see just what the DRS is going to allow these drivers to do going out onto the pit straight now. There's a couple of cars in front which could actually work out in Danger David's favour, because if they are there, albeit back markers, he'd still be able to use his DRS. But Herman uses DRS at the moment. He goes up just behind Danger David with the option to go inside, but again the straight is just not long enough for him and he will have to sit in second place. But RS0121 has closed that gap onto him from where they were around a lap ago, onto lap 14 of 27 in the final race of season 11 of this All Assist Soft League. As it stands at the moment, it would be Danger David that walks away as the drivers' champion, and it would be Red Bull that walks away as the constructors' champion. If I'm not mistaken, Ferrari may actually just take it depending on where D. Perez finishes based upon all-time penalties that are going on at the bottom. But now DRS has been enabled and used by Herman again. Is he going to have the chance to go up the inside of Danger David? No, he's not. The DRS flap at the back of his car closes just before he starts to take that turn. And Danger David will continue out in first place at the moment. Herman just behind him. I'd love to be able to take you to a different part of this race, but this is the closest anyone is other than Tarquingino battling with Veriduco for 14th place. And really, I'm struggling to take my eyes off the entertainment that the front of this track has given us so far, as Danger David, Herman and RS0121 all separated by around 0.7 of a second between the three of them individually. And this is the closest we've had racing for this period of time. As well as moving to the side is Racing Wheel, which allows Herman and Danger David through, but it also makes things a little bit difficult for RS0121. He eventually does move a corner later, but RS0121 should still have DRS, as now it has been opened from Herman. Can he get him on this corner, this straight? He's keeping very close due to the DRS that we get here in France and the width of this track, should I say, in these corners. As Danger David looked like he got very close to going entirely off the track, but he managed to keep two tyres at the very least on track. No track limits warning for him at the moment out there on medium tyres. 12 laps left of this race, and most people have had these tyres on now for around about 8 laps when the rain started to disappear and DRS was re-enabled. And we've had excitement ever since Apologies, my voice is starting to go, but that's what happens sometimes when you get racing like this. Herman now just behind Danger David with another opportunity to go up onto the inside of him. Is the straight going to be long enough? No, it's not. And it just seems to be a repetition, lap after lap, of Danger David having just enough pace about him on those medium tyres to stay just outside of the overtaking zone for Herman heading into those corners. It's happening on the pit straight, and it's happening on that straight on Sector 2 as well. 2 tenths separate the two drivers at the moment, and it is getting eerily close for them both. But Danger David could finish on the top step of the podium, which would of course hand him the Drivers' Championship, as well as it's looking like RS0121's just closed that gap by 4 tenths over the last couple of corners as well. Some excellently executed corners from him to get him back amongst the front runners of this race, as Evo seems to have dropped off by 6 tenths since we last checked on him. But again, it's DRS open straight away from both RS0121 and Herman. I think at the moment the Mercedes might just be sitting in third place, trying to keep up with them, expecting and hoping for an error to be made at some point. And I think Herman at the moment is patiently waiting for if Danger David does need to pit, and thinking if he can just outlast and outweight the tyres that Danger David's on, this race is his. But Danger David's task really at the moment is made much tougher by the fact that he's constantly lap after lap having to defend from the Alfa Romeo whilst using those tyres that could at any moment, you know, they don't have the lifespan that the hard tyres have, could cause him a lot of grip issues and a lot of difficulty. So it's just how long he can go before he may need to pit. The interesting thing is with Sandman behind him, not in as much competition, if Sandman can really use those tyres to his advantage, hold on to them, look after them, he might be able to see this race through, and Danger David pitting could actually cost him the lead of this race ahead of Sandman, which could of course change things in the Drivers' Championship as well. As we are on board with Herman, as we see there at the bottom, the Aston Martin of Skid Solo goes wide off track just to allow the front runners of this race to go through. Now 3 tenths separates RS0121 from Herman, who's separated from Danger David by just under half a second. So it's interesting to see the approach that these drivers are going to take, and we've seen Siribo go in onto intermediate tyres, which is an interesting strategy to go on, unless the expectation is rain is just around the corner, which means those medium tyres could actually have been an excellent decision from Danger David RS0121. And you could say most of the grid, to be fair. It just questions whether the hard tyres was the right choice, but hindsight of course is a wonderful thing, as we see RS0121 again just going up behind Herman 26, again behind Danger David. No change at the front for those three. So we will have a look a little bit further down the track towards Tobalenzen, who is closing the gap a little bit further on Veriduco. And as soon as I've left the front, I expect plenty of overtaking to go on there at the moment, as we can see a couple of cars going into the pits. That is VSM Sandman, Frankie 1811 and Toxic CZ10 now. 2 of those have gone in onto soft tyres, 1 has gone in onto hard. VSM Sandman comes out in 8th place on those soft tyres. So is that a mastermind? Is this going to work to his advantage? We still have to think about the fact that Cerebro's gone in onto intermediates, which could raise a couple of questions. But out onto the pit straight now, we've got 3 drivers all alongside each other, as Veriduco will jump on board with him as he tries to complete an overtake on Peter Caspi, and he does so going out onto the outside and manages to take the position in 11th place for the McLaren, moving Peter Caspi down into 12th place. And again, that could be very important when it comes to looking at the Constructors' Championship. But Peter Caspi isn't done there, goes back onto the inside line of the McLaren, and it looks like they were very close to colliding, but there were no collision actually made onto the inside again, and I think it's going to be advantage to the Ferrari. Not only is it that, but then the Williams has caught the McLaren as well. Formula 1 Ferrari goes inside, maybe a little bit recklessly, and catches Veriduco. Whether there's any damage remains yet to be seen. Veriduco's gone off. He's spun off. That could be down to the damage that he's just received. He's down in 15th place at the moment, but Formula 1 Ferrari went in maybe a little bit recklessly and caught onto the side of Veriduco. It looks like the race could very much be over for the McLaren, who's trying to gain himself some stability back on track, but from what looked like knocking on the door of 12th place, he's now down in 15th, and Formula 1 Ferrari has received a 10-second time penalty for cutting a corner. He's now in 11th place at the moment, so he's of course gained that position on Peter Caspi as well, but a 10-second time penalty will prove very important to his race, and he may also need to pit as well. He could have received damage on the back of what's just happened with Veriduco, who's also received a 10-second time penalty for corner cutting as well, so a lot of changes could have been made to this race. We now jump on board with Danger David. He is 21 seconds behind RS0121 and Herman, but that's because those medium tyres We ain't going to last the distance for him, and he's pitted onto the soft tyres, so he's going to try and make these last the remaining 9 laps if he can. With RS0121 now 6/10 behind Herman, still on those medium tyres, so we'll stay on board with him as he comes round onto the final sector of the lap. We'll see just what his decision is, whether he chooses to go in onto those soft tyres as well, and whether the hard tyres was just a case of a patient game from Herman to see him potentially walk out as the race leader for back-to-back weeks. It's been a very interesting season, to say the least. VSM Sandman and Danger David, the consistent two that's seen them at the front of the grid. Of course, AMS Johnsy was here at the beginning of the season and stopped both of them in their tracks. Herman is now the one to give them the reality check out in first place. As it stands, RS0121 stays out on track on those medium tyres, though maybe he was patiently waiting for his opportunity to have a crack at taking first place away from Herman. And he's still got DRS and he's used it, but it's not quite enough to get him past the current race leader in the Alfa Romeo, and he will have to sit down in second place as it stands. We go across now to Ivor, who is currently in 6th place as Skid Solo gets a 10-second time penalty, also for exceeding track limits. But Ivor is currently in 6th place on the hard tyres, the fresh hard tyres in the Aston Martin, and he's just going to be, it looks like he's going to have a bit of a battle there with Quincy in a battle for 5th place, but also BSM Sandman on the soft tyres goes up onto the inside there of Quincy and manages to take that position, but I think Quincy had to go off track ever so slightly there as well. But BSM Sandman takes 6th place away from him, and with soft tyres will now try and attack the hard tyres of Ivor, who again is playing the long game here. 0.6 seconds separates the two, but with those soft tyres and DRS working to his advantage, he's just inside the DRS zone, detection zone, as it comes round onto the straight of Sector 2, opens up the rear wing of DRS, see if that can really gain much momentum against Ivor, as Skid Solo in the Aston Martin has retired from the session. He's got a DNF, which means yellow flag is out there at the moment. I think he's gone into the garage, he's gone into the paddock, yep, that's been called off as a yellow flag. Credit to Skid Solo for making the decision to go into the garage to park up there as well. So we are on board with VSM Sandman, who is 3/10 behind Ivor, who is a 10th behind Trugster. It is entertainment between all three of these drivers in the battle for 4th place, and then some space separates them from 3rd place of Danger David, who since coming out from the pits has gained 6 seconds on RS0121. So if those soft tyres can last him to the end of the race, it's just going to be, can he get to them before the 7 laps expires? As here we go, we've got a bit of battling going on to the pit straight, and VSM Sandman forced off ever so slightly by the back wheel of Trugster. He manages to keep composure of the car though, and he's going to have DRS going on through the pit straight just behind Trugster as well in the Alpha Tower. He's going to take the inside line, and he's going to take the position away from Trugster as well. Moves up into 5th place as we've now got more penalties being issued. Cerebro gets a 10-second time penalty for exceeding track limits. He's now just behind Ivor again, but Trugster just behind VSM Sandman, and it's another battle between these three drivers to see just what they can achieve. As the Alpine, we see their racing wheel in the background moving to the side to allow the drivers to go through. As VSM Sandman right on the tail now of Ivor 32. He's going to have DRS, he's going to open his wing, goes up onto the inside. The two cars about to go side by side, and VSM Sandman excellently goes past Ivor and keeps that DRS in his favour to get a little bit more momentum going into the next couple of corners. And he's only 10 seconds behind Danger David as well. All the championship, the streak of 3 consecutive World Championships hangs in the balance for VSM Sandman at the moment. He now has Danger David in his sights set on catching up with the Red Bull, who is now 12 seconds behind RS0121 and Herman at the front. That 3 seconds in the last lap, if that's going to be the case, we've got at least 3 laps here of Danger David battling with RS0121 and with Herman 26, but it's now whether the Mercedes that RS0121 has and those medium tyres that he pitted for 14 laps ago will last him to the end of this race. Cerebro has now gone into the pits on those intermediate tyres. It makes sense that he's gone into the pits. He's had plenty of penalties, and I dare say it's because the grip of the intermediate tyres in dry weather is going to be absolutely hopeless. It's pointless. But here we go with RS0121 now on board. He's going to have DRS going into this straight, and that just keeps the pressure on Herman. As you can see in the background there, Danger David, 11 seconds now behind the two. He was caught up behind the Alpine of Racing Wheel, I think has moved to one side to allow him to go past. And Danger David in third place. We'll see just how close he can get, as the distance now between Danger David and Sandman is shorter than the distance between Danger David and RS0121. 6 laps left of this race as it stands at the moment, and Herman is the race leader. Red Bull are the constructors leaders. Danger David is the drivers championship leader as things stand at the moment. So here we go. Let's jump on board with Evo 32, who, despite a time penalty, is only 2 tenths behind VSM Sandman, and on those hard tyres could keep the pressure on the Ferrari, which makes it difficult for him being able to catch Danger David. He's now 9.7 seconds away from the Red Bull. As we've seen an overtake a little bit further down, that's from Truckster on those soft tyres, the fresh soft tyres, cruising past Quincy in the Mercedes, who also is on relatively new soft tyres himself. He's only had 1 lap on those. And we'll have a look. There's a lot of stop strategies have been used here. Let's have a look at some of the penalties that have been accrued over the course of this race. Evo, Frankie and Toxic all on 3 seconds. Truckster also 3 seconds. Formula 1 Farah 13 seconds at the moment is his penalty count. D. Perez 3 seconds. As it stands, will keep him in 11th place, of course, taking into account the penalty that Formula 1 Farah will have. That doesn't cut him out of the Constructors' Championship for Red Bull, because his teammate is leading Sandman, and he is leading the Ferrari of Peter Caspi, as we did just for a moment have a yellow flag in Sector 1. That is just drivers moving away to allow the front runners to catch up with them. But RS0121, one of those medium tyres, now may be running very thin, as 6.8 seconds is the distance between Danger David and RS0121. With 5 laps left to go, this pace that the Red Bull of Danger David has found is uncomparable. He's just behind the Mercedes, and I dare say if RS0121 doesn't pit soon, those medium tyres may be looking dangerous. But as it stands, he stayed out on track, and Danger David laps the Ferrari of Peter Caspi in 15th place. And here we go. He'll be able to relay that information back to VSM Salmon, who's lost the position to Evo, who's gained it up into 4th place at the moment, and Peter Caspi then gets a 3-second time penalty for exceeding track limits. But here we go on board with Danger David in his pursuit of 2nd place. He's got a little bit of breathing space now from the fact that Evo has overtaken Sandman, who had found a lot of pace himself, but he'll not be happy with that. He'll want top step of this podium, and with 4.9 seconds the difference between him and RS0121 and the Mercedes that RS has now back in within DRS zone of Herman, you'd like to think that that battle's going to resume, and the decision to pit for soft tyres could very well be genius from Danger David. Let's have a look at other areas of the track, see where there's any real challenges, and we'll just jump onto the board of BSM Sandman, but that seems quite irrelevant now as he's over a second behind as we go on to board with Sir Ibo in the Haas, who is just moving to the side to allow a lot of cars to go by, which is normally the case when you are being lapped. So we will go back on board with VSM Sandman, who's managed to gain some of that pace back. He's now down to 0.7 seconds, the difference between the two cars, and he's in 5th place as it stands at the moment. 3-time defending champion in the Ferrari. There was questions being asked when he won that 3rd World Championship whether it's an argument for the remote being much better and much more beneficial than the steering wheel, which a lot of these, if not all these drivers on track at the moment are using. And the argument at the moment with Sandman in 5th place and about to lose that championship is no. There's still an argument that the wheels that people are investing so heavily in could still be the way to move forward. But within a second of Evo at the moment, despite being on soft tyres and Evo being on hard, it looks like he might have just fallen out of DRS by the detection zone as well. I think he has, so he's not going to have DRS going into Sector 2 as well. Remember, by the detection zone, you must be within 1 second of the car ahead to be eligible for DRS, but now he's nearly further away from Ivor than Danger David is from RS 0121. So that within itself says just how big that difference is, that Danger David has managed to close and regain on the drivers ahead. We'll jump on board with the Mercedes of Quincy, who at the moment is battling DDB 890, should I say, and he's gone up onto the outside with the assistance of DRS and got past the McLaren to go up into 9th place at the moment. And that advantage for him is that DRS won't be able to be used by the McLaren until another couple of corners time, so it gives him a chance to get himself ahead of a second away from him, which could work out in his favour. That is some of the closest that we have. We'll jump on board with the Alpine of Racing Wheel at the moment, who is closing the gap on his teammate of Tarkangino, and 8/10 separates him from Sir Ibo and Tarkangino, and Sir Ibo then was having a little bit of a luck of getting past him up into 17th place. All three of these cars have been lapped, and 35 seconds actually separates Tarkangino in 16th from Peter Caspi out in 15th place. And all these penalties, Kwan has a 15-second time penalty, 13 seconds for Sir Ibo, 3 seconds for Peter Caspi, 13 for Veriduco, Formula 1 Farah on 13 as well. And we'll jump on board at the very front of this race, as now Danger David is closer to RS 0121 than VSM Sandman is to either Ivor in 4th place or Frankie 1811 in 6th. So this has been a monumental climb, an expert decision to pit for those soft tyres. It's a long game played to perfection for Danger David, as he's in 3rd place now, entering into the DRS detection zone just behind RS 0121, as Kwan is out of the race from 19th place in the Williams, and that yellow flag on the pit straight should be made irrelevant when the stewards realise that Kwan is actually in the paddocks at the moment, and he's parked up in the garage safely and out of the way, as DRS is open for Danger David, and we are back with those 3 cars at the front of the track. RS 0121 will wonder just where this Red Bull has got that pace from. The answer is those soft tyres, as Danger David goes up, takes a look onto the inside, takes it past RS 0121, and now his sights, with 2 laps left to go, is firmly on the current race leader of Herman 26. This is excitement to finish the race. Nearly 2 seconds separates them. Is it going to be enough for Danger David not only to win the World Championship this evening, but also to finish on the top step of the podium? 1.6 seconds now separates them heading down this long straight. A couple of corners left before they go into the final race, and we could have entertainment to finish this race. We had it to start, we had it in the sprint, and of course we've had it in the qualifying. Season 11 is about to reach its conclusion, and will it be Danger David, will it be Herman, or will it be RS 0121 that finishes this race on the top step of the podium? 1.2 now separates Danger David from Herman. Just over a second separates RS 0121 from Danger David. All 3 of these drivers have played an incredible race. Strategy to perfection. Herman pitted from the intermediate straight onto hard to play the long game, to make sure those hard tyres lasted him the full length of this race. Danger David pitted onto the medium tyres, and as soon as he realised they couldn't do it, went onto the soft, played the long game and caught up to these drivers. RS 0121 made those medium tyres last to when they have today. He seems to be dropping off now, but it is Danger David with the DRS on the pit straight to close the gap onto Herman. He's neck and neck on 0.6 behind him as it stands going into the next couple of corners. He's got the soft tyre advantage. He's got the DRS advantage if he can keep it going into Sector 2. This has been phenomenal racing from the 2 drivers so far. Clean, excellently executed from both of them. 0.3 now separates them, as the speed and the distance ahead of RS 0121 is immeasurable. The rain just starts to fall down now. Is it going to be Danger David to take the top step of the podium, or is it going to be Herman? We stay on board with Danger David, who opens up DRS to go out onto the inside, or what would be the inside into this corner of Herman. Can he gain the position on him? He's going to be very close. He's got the tyres, he's got the lead, and Danger David on the final lap of the race takes that lead away from Herman as the rain starts to fall down. He's skidded. He's gone wide. He's gone into the wall. No damage looks like it's been taken from Danger David, but it's allowed RS 0121 to get past him as well. Danger David, what looked like it was almost incredible has gone wide after taking that first place away from Herman. No damage in the wall, but on the last lap of the race, it looked almost perfect, too perfect to be done by Danger David. And it is going to be, he's going to win the Drivers' Championship. His team are going to win the Constructors' Championship. But he isn't going to win this race, and that within itself, after the way he's played this race, might just feel like defeat for the Red Bull driver. Hopefully we'll hear from him in just a few moments' time, but we'll jump on board with Herman, who goes back-to-back. He won last weekend. He's going to win this weekend as well, as he crosses the line in first place, under the yellow flag as well. RS0121 has been there or thereabouts all weekend. He'll take second place. Danger David then in third. The grid on the left-hand side will tell us where everyone finishes, taking into account the penalties, but Evo will fall to fifth with VSM Sadman moving up into fourth place to finish his season. Frankie 1811 will cross the line in sixth place, but with those penalties could fall as well. We'll have a look at the penalties so we can see just how much of an impact that's going to have. Probably not too much for Frankie's perspective, to be fair. Truxter's on 6-second time penalty, so may lose a couple of positions himself. He has dropped down to 8th place as Toxic moves up into 7th. Quincy and DDB 890 should both finish 9th and 10th respectively. Formula 1 Farah in 11th place with a 13-second time penalty may fall considerably, and I'm just looking at the moment, he'll probably fall down into 13th place, which moves D. Perez up into 12th, which will confirm Red Bull as the Constructors' Champions for this season. Both of them will be racing for the Mercedes next season. RS0121 will be racing in the Red Bull next season alongside Quincy. Plenty of driver changes that are on the way for us to look forward to. For the 12th season of the All Assist Soft League. Veriduco in 14th place, Peter Caspi in 15th, Tarcangino in 16th, Racing Wheel and Suribo in 17th and 18th. We'll wait for Formula 1 Faraday, Perez and Tobalenzen to finish their race as well. We lost Kwan and we lost Skid Solo along the way, but that's been it for season 11, and it is Danger David who walks away the Drivers' Champion. We'll hopefully be hearing from multiple drivers in just a few moments' time, so stay with us here on the coverage of Race 8 of the All Assist Soft League. So what a race it has been. But we've reached the conclusion of Season 11 in the All Assists Off League. Race 8 in France. So the top step of the podium belonged to Herman. And we're going to bring him in now to just have a quick chat. Herman, first of all, congratulations on what has been a successful and very entertaining race, but also back-to-back wins, of course.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, crazy race again. Totally fucked up the fuel in terms of the strategy. Went way too low. Didn't quite pan out. And after I pitted for the hards, I just had to save fuel. Was in a call with Shane, and we just managed to get that DRS all the time, and try to save as much as possible. Obviously, the last stop from David put more pressure on us because we still weren't on the target, and as you saw there last lap, he went for the overtake. I was certainly he was gonna finish in first, but then just chaos happened. He spun, got a tire failure at the last corner as well, went out of fuel, somehow over the line when it started raining. Just crazy race from start to finish.
And last week it was quite a dominant win. This week it's been much more compact. It's been very close, and it's been tyre-to-tyre battling with you, RS, and of course Danger David as well. So what do you think was different this week from last week that made it a much closer race from your perspective?
I think honestly just the amount of rain we had. I think everyone is just, especially with Portugal, some of these high-speed corners and how the banking or the cambers on these corners just have to be inch perfect every time. And with my experience, I can say I have a lot of crazy races in the wet as well. And I feel like, especially in the dry here, with setups being set up for it, probably a short amount of time in terms of the inter at the start, and how different you can approach in terms of the downforce level. You just bunch up everyone, and there's so many mistakes you can make in the wet. And obviously when the start came and I went like up 12 places in Portugal, I was obviously kind of lucky, but still made the move stick I wanted to make and just picked the fights I was having. And this time it just wasn't really racing in terms of that, because we had to manage. We obviously predicted somewhat the safety car, but it didn't come, and then we had to work from there. And that makes it tough, because you just can't keep flat out, lose more fuel, and then no safety car shows up, then you're out with one lap before the end. So I think in terms of the overall answer to that question is just the conditions, just that it was dry through most of the race, just made the difference today, I think.
And last of all, you was of course the race leader. It was battling quite close between the three of you at the front, and then there was the decision from Danger David to drop from the medium tyres onto the soft tyres. Was there any thought in your mind that he could catch you, or did you think that that pit stop would give you enough time in the race to be able to control it from your side?
Well, I was certain I could make the tires last, even on race pace, which obviously we didn't do throughout the race. But we managed the gap. We always had that in mind, and honestly, was not sure all the time. Like, we saw the gap coming down, and we were making most of the situation we could, and the gap we had in mind, but I couldn't tell you if he was going to catch or not, because sometimes we had good lifts on in the chicane on the straight, sometimes not, and then we had to, at a certain point, I had to make sure I get some pace of the tires that was left. So I always was on the edge there at the lower end in terms of the fuel, and then after he was within, I think, three seconds with 2 laps to go, I was quite sure he was going to take that win, but as you know, he made a mistake there, and I could pull through that. So probably it was his win at the end with that strategy, because we just fucked up the fuel and at the start already. So
Well, the last question, I guess, from me is: you've had 2 races, 2 different cars, but the result has stayed the same, and that is you at the top step of the podium. So I guess my question is, what are we to expect from you next season?
I hope I can be in a full-time seat, and that me being at the front is going to change up the order, and we as Sam Sandman and Danger David are on the lookout for hopefully a three-way battle. Even if I'm a reserve, I try to be all there for the races, so I'm hoping to shake up the order. we just witnessed 3 consecutive championships come to an end by the hands of Danger David. So I'm like to put my name at the top as well and in the mix. So you guys can have another awesome season of racing at the front.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, and hopefully that will be the case when it comes to covering it next season in season 12 of the All Assist Soft League. But Herman, of course, congratulations on your race win today.
Thank you.
Speaking of congratulations, I think it's time to welcome in the newly crowned drivers' champion, Danger David. I think the first thing we've got to say is congratulations.
Yeah, thanks very much. Tough race, tough season, so a good result in the end, to be honest.
You said at the beginning of the season that it was all about it being for the team. I asked you whether that was just to get in your competitors' heads, and you said last week that wasn't the case. This week you've walked away as the drivers' champion, but you and Perez have doubled up and you've walked away as the constructors' champion, putting an end to 3 consecutive years of VSM Sandman being the drivers' champion, and of course Ferrari winning the constructors last year as well. So how good does that feel?
Yeah, that's it. So the goal going into the season was the Constructors' Championship, and even tonight, if you'd seen the conversations between me and Perez, there was no talk about the Drivers' Champion. It was just about us both maximising points as a team. Even going into tonight's race, Sandman really wasn't on my radar in the sense of fighting him. It was a matter of just trying to keep ahead of Ferrari with the points and trying to keep ahead of Mercedes. And obviously when Sandman got disqualified under the sprint, at that point my mentality had to switch, and I had to really look at the Drivers' Championship and just securing a really strong race. Almost screwed up at the end, but these things happen, you learn from mistakes.
It's been a long time, even in real life racing as well, that we've seen so many drivers win a race within a season. I know there's only been 8 races throughout this season, so it's not been a case of you've won every race, of course, as well. So have there been any points in your mind where you've thought, this isn't the case this season for me personally as a drivers' champion?
The thing is, it's tough to win a race in this league. It really is, because with the no assists and some of the drivers up there, and every time you start catching somebody or putting in competition, somebody new joins, so it adds that other dimension. So at one side, I love having, obviously Herman's joined, and I've had some great battles side by side, especially tonight. But it just adds a bit more competition, because you're obviously focused fighting, for example, Sandman and Trugster and Shane, and then next thing you've got somebody else there battling for the win. So I like that. I like the fact that it's quite dynamic and it's ever changing. This season I've not won a race. I thought tonight was my chance, but it's not about winning. It's about consistency. And I was in the podium, I think 6 races out of 8 races this season, which is quite a feat.
And just talk us through that strategy decision from you. You weren't the only one that chose to pit from the intermediates onto the medium tyres, but you then chose to go from the medium tyres onto the soft. Was that something that with the tyres about worn, or did you think that soft were going to allow you to catch back up?
Honest, if I'm being completely honest with you, Sandman and Ivor were battling behind me, and I was in P1, P2 and 3, whatever, fighting the Shane and Herman, and I seen Sandman. Sandman showed up on my 1 to 5 list of drivers, and I seen him pit. And I wasn't interested in fighting Shane and Herman. My mindset at that point, like I said, after the sprint DSQ, my mindset shifted to the Drivers' Championship. And when I seen Sandman pit, I knew I had to try and cut him off, because I run the risk of the exact same thing happening when he catches back up on the fresh softs. So I only done it to try and cut off Sandman. And then I realised that my time was just coming down to Shane and Herman. And at that point, I just pushed it to the end.
And of course, congratulations to you and to Di Perez for the Constructors' Championship. So we will look towards next season. It's a different seat for you, of course, isn't it? The two of you continuing your camaraderie, but playing it in the Mercedes field.
That's it. Obviously, tonight was quite a lot of pressure on us, because, like I said, we wanted to take a Constructors' Championship, especially if we're moving seats, because if we're going to Mercedes next season, it gives us the chance to get a double Constructors, both in different actual seats as well. So that was the kind of logic. But yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Well, best of luck, and hopefully it's something that you'll be able to keep the entertainment going for next season as well. Speaking of moving seats, I think it's best that we move to the third step of the podium now. Shane, of course, known on the grid as RS0121. Congratulations on your finish in, I think it was second in the end, wasn't it, actually? Me saying third place. Congratulations on your second place finish. Battling towards the front there for the majority of that.
Oh yeah, I'll say no. GG, David, man, flipping them, top racer. But I'm kind of busy at the moment. But I'll just do this one quickly. But yeah, Herman was racing really smart. To be fair, I think if we had battled each other a little bit earlier, it would have probably been an issue near the end of the race. But yeah, we were just doing really smart racing. David, he was flying today. To be fair, but he just unlucky in the last lap. But yeah, deserve a champion anyway. We'll see him next season. We'll see what happens.
I'll keep it short and sweet because I know you've just said that you are busy, but for this one you are going to join us, so I appreciate that. With regards to your decision to switch from the intermediates to the mediums, you managed to get those medium tyres to last until the end of the race, so was that quite comfortable for you, or did you feel like, because towards the end when Danger David had passed you on those soft tyres, you seemed to drop the pace a little bit? Was that, tyre wear maybe taking effect?
Yeah, it was that and fuel, to be fair, because I think a few of us prepped that the rain might last a little bit longer than it did. I think it only went in after the first 3 or 4 laps. So yeah, everyone underfueled. Well, a few of us did, and then yeah, I was just struggling for fuel and tyre wear. Obviously, being on the mediums, I think I was nearly 60% or 70% near the end of the race. So it's all about managing that. But when I saw David spun out near the end, yeah, it was like a dream come true, to be fair to you, because I didn't have to push to keep up with anybody. But yeah, it was all right. I was never going to battle him, really. I'm not really in the championship running, so it would have been pointless. Really disrupting his championship.
Now that seemed to work out in your favour, and of course next season you're also going to be driving for a different team. You're making the straight swap, aren't you, over onto the Red Bull? Excitement heading into the team that's just won the Constructors' Championship and your chances of defending it?
Yeah, I think it's the car that helped them a lot, I think this season. Now I'm joking. Yeah, I think everyone wanted a change-up. I think everyone's been driving the same car for quite a while now, so it's probably best we all had a change-up. And me and my top man, Quincy, I know he's probably not here yet, but yeah, can't wait to drive the Red Bull next season. Should be fun.
Excellent. Best of luck, and hopefully we'll be able to take you through that on this YouTube channel as well. So congratulations on second place, and we appreciate, despite your busy schedule, you joining us for a quick chat as well. We'll jump over now to speak to Racing Wheel, who has just joined us. Just run us through what your thoughts were from your approach into that race.
Oh, I just wanted to have fun. So the sprint race succeeded in that way. The future race was very tough. I had a collision in the first lap with Kwan. Had to make a pit stop to repair my front wing, and then it was just trying to finish the race on the hard tire. At least I scored some points, so I'm happy with that, and I also am happy with the season. It was very exciting to watch and to drive. It was very nice to be part of it. Yeah.
I was going to say, heading into next season, what's your expectations and what's your thoughts going into it?
It will be really interesting. We have some really fast drivers. So we have Sandman, we have Danger David, we have Shane. It will be really difficult to predict who will win the drivers' championship next season. So that's something to look forward to.
And what's the expectation that you're setting yourself in terms of competing with them at the front or in the middle of the pack?
Competing in the front, that will not be my objective. I have to be a little bit realistic. My objective is to to reach the top 10 in the drivers' championship and have a good time, of course.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully we'll see you succeed in doing that. But best of luck, of course, heading into next season. We'll now bring in Quincy. I'm hoping you are there at the moment. I know it's showing that you left a moment ago.
Yeah, currently.
Excellent. You've been kind of like my point of contact for this season. With regards to how this season's gone for you guys, how do you think the Mercedes have approached it, and how do you think that expectations really matched what's happened?
I think we started strong, and my part of it really was just to pick up the points in the midfield. I know I'm not as fast as the guys in the top 5 to keep up guys like Truckster, Ivor, Shane, Spain Perez, Danger David. So I just kind of count on people's misfortunes and I pick up the points by being consistent. So that was my plan going in. Shane is just quick, he can't be contained, and he's only getting faster. So, but I'm betting money on him next season to be right up there with the likes of Herman and Sandman and Danger David as well. Joining a new team next season, that should be exciting. A couple of things to mix up, like he said, we've been driving the same cars for a couple of seasons now, so it'll be good to see other people in different colours with different teammates as well. I like that I've kept my teammate. He's pretty good, and I think we make a good team. So I'm just looking forward to the next season to start. Maybe do a pre-season or something, and get to grips with what we need to in these new sets of eight tracks that are coming up, which will be revealed soon.
And you've just mentioned then about how you feel that Shane's going to be, one of the front runners with Danger David, with Sandman, with Herman for next season. Do you think that adds any extra pressure, or how do you feel you'd handle the pressure of being his teammate? Not just from a driver's perspective, but also from a constructor's perspective.
I felt, and I've said this to Herman himself, because Herman's my teammate in another league. I prefer to have a faster driver in front of me, so that I have something to reach for, something to attain. I learn nothing from driving with people that are my ability or lower, because I'm highly competitive. So if I've got something that I can reach for or aim for, in a teammate especially, then my level of drive and capability will improve. And it has done already, because this season is probably my best season so far with the All Assist Off League. I've been coming in very low in the last game, especially because it's a tough game, but I've come in with a strong mindset this time around and just push it to the limit, and I've just picked up the places, and it'll only get better next season, I reckon. I just have to find a little bit more time. I've got a newborn now, so that's putting some strain on the practice, but hopefully I'll have a little bit more time to edge out, get some more practice in, and hopefully be up there with them guys soon.
Well, of course, congratulations on the newborn. Hopefully we've done the season 11 for you, our first full season covering it for you. Hopefully we've done it justice. It's been entertainment from start to finish. My understanding is there's a nice little couple of weeks break, which my throat would very much appreciate, before we get to go again into season 12.
As soon as I know what's the situation, Wesley's right here, you can speak to him. As soon as we know the dates, we'll confirm with you guys and hopefully re-sign you for the next season of the commentators.
Absolutely, lads.
We will take everything
Pardon?
step by step. Step by step, we're gonna make the preparation, and once we know more, we will let you guys know the new calendar.
Yeah, as soon as we get it all finished, I will let you guys know the situation.
Not a problem whatsoever. Gents, thank you very much. That concludes Season 12. We'll be back in the near future. That concludes Season 11, should I say. Season 12 will get things back underway for you. But that is it for the All Assist Off League Season 11. We're back shortly.